Life doesn't come with a script. Well, it's absolutely true. And that is why when we are faced with situations and we grapple with uncertainty, we don't know what to say, how to say, when to say, depending upon the level of communication the situation demands. You don't need to worry. We have some great tips for you which will help you understand how to speak to anyone with confidence regardless of the situation. So let's get straight into this lesson, and we have some wonderful tips for you which will help you understand how to speak to anyone with absolute confidence. As we all know, often people who struggle with communication skills, they find it difficult to face people. I'm sure you're in that zone when you're suddenly facing a lot of people or probably interacting with a senior, and you find yourself fumbling for words. Now, when this is the scenario, the most apt solution in this scenario is have some tips and tricks handy which will bail you out, save the day for you, regardless of the format of communication. I'm going to share these tips with you in just the next few minutes. Watch till the end because the last tip is a brilliant hack. And trust me, it will always save the day for you. Well, let's begin with tip number 1. How to speak to anyone, anywhere. The first tip is have some key phrases handy. Now, what do I mean by key phrases? And how do I keep them handy? Well, let me give you some examples so that this tip becomes relatable. First phrase would be to begin with, or at the outset, or to kickstart the discussion. Whenever you want to start, you're in charge, you're leading, these phrases work wonderfully well. It indicates that you're about to begin and it helps you start the discussion instead of straight jumping into the discussion. You could also use a key phrase, absolutely right. When you agree with someone and you express it out loud, you immediately get many people on your side when you acknowledge, or for that matter, you agree with them. You could also agree with people by using phrases like, I'm so in sync with you, I'm in sync with you. Or for that matter, I'm aligned to this thought. Even better, I endorse this view. Some great key catchphrases which will work brilliantly well to indicate agreement. Key phrases can also be used when you're expressing opinion. My take on this subject, if you ask me, or for that matter, to my mind, this solution is perfect. It works brilliantly well for our problem. So there you go. You've expressed your opinion and you've also used a key phrase for necessary impact. There are plenty of phrases to, express your opinion. Hold on to some of them, which I am sharing in this particular lesson. Key phrases could also be used when you're evaluating or assessing a situation. What are the benefits and what really doesn't work for the situation? So the pros and cons, commonly you've heard this. You could also say the positives and the negatives, and my personal favorite, the upsides and the flip sides. Okay, the upside or the flip side if you're using it in singular form. Great ways to indicate that you're taking an analytical view of the situation, or you're probably analyzing to understand what are the benefits and what really is not working. Tip number 2. Find the missing pieces of the puzzle. Now, what do I mean by this tip? Well, more often than not, we are probably not aware of the full situation. So when suddenly someone interacts with us on a subject, it could be in the social context or possibly in the workplace scenario, what will really help is, finding out what you don't know about the subject. Now, you can't possibly be direct and ask that, I have only half-baked information about the topic. So how do you then go about this? Well, the best way to do it is you could use a statement like, correct me if I'm wrong, and then you articulate your understanding of the subject. When you're putting it out there, correct me if I'm wrong, okay? You are actually telling the other person, this is what I know. If there is more information, please feel free to add on. You could even say it directly, but politely, formally, and smartly. How do you do it? You could say, I'm about to share, the context of the situation. Please feel free to add on additional inputs as and when. Okay? So you're telling that you're doing context setting based on whatever you know, and you're encouraging or inviting people to go ahead and share additional information, which are the missing pieces of the puzzle. So, when you don't know the full situation, yet you're in charge, you could probably use it to your advantage by finding out the missing pieces of the puzzle, but not really saying things like, I don't know the full situation. I don't think I can lead the call because I don't know what is happening, or I'm not aware. It makes you sound like someone who is, out of touch or probably not up to date. And really, we don't want these things to impact your confidence. Because the moment you reveal it that you're not aware, you're actually, causing a dent to your confidence. So a better way to do it is, you put your knowledge on the subject out there and invite the missing pieces of the puzzle from the relevant audience by indicating these statements or phrases like, why don't you add the important additional, inputs as and when, or for that matter, simply by saying, correct me if I'm wrong, you are admitting or you're probably inviting inputs by saying upfront that this might not be the full picture. So please feel free to add on. Yet you have been confident. Definitely not someone who ended up admitting that I don't know or I'm not aware. So this is a great tip. Find out the missing pieces of the puzzle. My third important tip for you guys to feel confident or to speak to anyone anywhere is use one enhanced word or one enhanced phrase or idiom as you deem fit in any scenario that you're interacting. Using enhanced vocabulary by first understanding its meaning completely is definitely a huge boost to your confidence. It makes you feel like you're making progress, and any progress is noticed, appreciated, and definitely it gives you great validation. So let me show you some examples of how just a word switch can, create a huge boost or augment your confidence. I just used two words, boost and augment. Well, whenever we want to give a push or a nudge to something. So, for example, I don't have enough resources in my team and I want to say, let's, boost the process with more resources. I could even use a phrase, let's augment the process with more resources. What I did just now is a simple switch. I used augment in place of boost, but I'm sure to the listeners it was a great switch and they must have been in awe of what I just said. And that in turn impacts my confidence. Let's explore some more. Whenever you're trying to remember something from the past and you're not really sure that you remember it correctly, you end up saying, I'm not sure if I remember this correctly, but I would still like to, mention what I recall about this. Well, you're not sounding very confident when you say that, okay? You do have a great phrase for this, though, which actually works like a brilliant disclaimer. You can get away by saying that I don't know the full picture or I'm not sure I remember every bit of detail correctly from the past. So what is this magical phrase to express this thought? Well, the phrase goes as, if my memory serves me right. If my memory serves me right, we discussed 5 points in the last meeting and not really all 7. So let's complete this exercise today. Okay? So 5 points, not 7, but you're also adding a brilliant phrase, if my memory serves me right. Great disclaimer to indicate that you may not be saying it all correctly, okay? But people are definitely impressed when they hear you using this. When someone is trying to tell you, you've had probably a bitter dispute in the past, you've kind of buried your differences and you're moving on, and someone tries to tell you, we need to let go of that issue and we need to just put it aside. A great way to indicate you're doing it is, well, that's water under the bridge now. Let's move on. We have so much to accomplish. Let's get on to the next part or next phase of this project. When you say it's water under the bridge, it's such a brilliant way to express that you're not holding on to anything from the past. You're letting bygones be bygones. Okay? So great phrase. So as I indicated, imbibe one advanced vocabulary. It could be phrase, idiom, word, which expresses a basic thought much more effectively. And see the impact you create, not just on your audience, but also on your confidence. Tip number 4. Don't ramble, speak in a concise manner. When you talk on and on and on, probably use long sentences, okay? You sound like someone who's confused, nervous, and for that matter, the listener is not getting, the drift of what you're trying to discuss. Use short sentences to express your thought when you're not confident. Speaking in a concise manner always works brilliantly. Don't ramble. It's definitely a sign of anxiety. So long-winded conversations, big no. Concise, crisp conversations, big yes. Tip number 5. You will really value this tip. As I mentioned to you right at the outset, this final tip is actually the key ability to be able to speak to anyone, anywhere. Conversation is a two-way street, not a monologue. Recognize this. So tip number 5, conversation is a dialogue, two-way street, not a monologue. Recognize this. Invite people to speak. Invite people to chip in. Invite people to contribute when you have shared some piece of information or you have started the conversation. Because after a while, if you keep speaking, people will zone out. Nobody can be receptive for long. So when you invite people by saying statements like, let me know your thoughts, or what are your thoughts on this subject, okay? How do you feel about this? Or for that matter, let's hear from you. All these phrases work brilliantly because you're engaging people and not keeping them out of it. So conversation, always a two-way street. Most valuable tip for the ability to speak to anyone, anywhere. People feel very valued when you seek their opinion or you invite and engage them. They feel detached, okay, to the situation or conversation when it's only you who end up opining. So invite inputs, speak to people, engage people. Speaking to anyone, anywhere actually entails application of these 5 tips at any and every point of time. Basically, the format of the discussion with people is immaterial. As long as you hold on to these 5 tips, they will work brilliantly for you. And for more such lessons, please follow and subscribe to our channel because we bring to you what's relevant to you in your day-to-day communication skills, regardless of the setup in which you're engaging with people. So till then, happy learning at English Excellence with Chaya.